On this question of the biggest challenge that I've faced as an Agilist, I've faced a number of challenges. Maybe one of the biggest I see generally is as we move from project mindset into Agile and product mindset, we sometimes hold on to the things that we believed were true back when doing projects. And I guess I'm referring to that iron triangle. We refer to it as the iron triangle of time, scope, and money. And, it's under pressure. I think it's under pressure we discover what we truly believe. And so I've seen situations where we're under the gun. Some high-level milestone has been defined, a date has been selected, maybe not at all related to the work that needs to be done. And now we start. We're under the gun, and pretty quickly there's a pressure to work nights and weekends in order to meet that milestone. So I'm thinking of two stories. Both of which were had fairly good outcomes. The first story was in the business process management group at Wells Fargo, and this was a high visibility, high pressure program. The bank needed to catch up, and this was an effort to look across the enterprise, define all of those mission critical business processes within the working units of the bank, and catalog and manage them in a centralized tool. And we had early conversations about this great scope of work and the milestone date that had been set by the regulators and how were we going to get this done. And we had conversations about how do you scale the effort by scaling the teams, right? So by alleviating that cost side of the triangle, we were able to bring in more Scrum Masters, more specialists, and more teams to get the job done. And I think by the time we finished up as coaches, we were up to 27 teams. And the teams were able to deliver on those milestone commitments, and we were able to avoid a lot of that nights and weekends work. The other story I'm thinking of is working for the wealth and investment management group in the bank, and a small set of teams, 4 or 5 teams at the time, working on a single product release. And the scope of that release had been defined, and here again, a high-level date had been set, and there was a manager that was over these teams, a delivery manager, who was accountable to deliver that scope in the time frame. And so he understood Agile concepts. He was testing out these concepts and wanting the teams to be autonomous, but he was also under great pressure to deliver this milestone in the fixed date. So I remember us pulling up and having multiple conversations about this, one around a whiteboard, where we were able to describe building a kind of release projection based on the team's average historical velocity. How could we project forward the number of sprints and the time frame and the scope that the teams would be able to deliver? And laying this out on the whiteboard, equipping him with the information that he needed so that he could, manage expectations with his leadership. And so we were able to alleviate a lot of pressure on the teams that were already working nights and weekends. There was already some burnout happening, and we were able to alleviate that pressure by managing those expectations in following our Agile principles.